So for those of you who may not know me, as we start getting people in here right now, my name is Andrea Johnson, and actually I should say it's Andrea McEachern Johnson. We were in Korea from 1974. My parents left in 1986, and we were with the Southern Baptist International Mission Board, and I went to Seoul Foreign School and I was a lifeguard at the beach. And so I see quite a few names in here and faces that I haven't seen in ages. And it just is so exciting to me to be here. I'm thrilled to be here. As we get started, I want to give people just a few more minutes. Kelly, is that okay? Just 1 or 2 more minutes as people are continuing to join. And maybe just lay out a few guidelines and expectations. I definitely want to give a shout out to those who put all of this together. I think the main people were Judy Steele, Kelly Reamer Cusick, Amy Howard Justice, Mike Reamer, and I think that they are the ones that get all of the credit for doing this and putting it together for us this year. As you know, we really wanted to be together in person, but we were not able to. And I think that this gives us an opportunity to see even more people. We've got 50 people in here, y'all. This is really exciting. And we've still got more coming in. So one of the things that I wanted to share tonight first is because we have this many people, we're up to 52, and we have, I think, upwards of 25 family groups that have submitted pictures to share tonight. We only have 2 hours. So I think what we're going to do is ask you to limit yourself to about 3 minutes if your picture is in there ready to share. And if we do that and we have a little extra time, we can continue to share and talk about some other things. But if we do limit to about 3 minutes, then we're most likely to get it done. We will stop in the middle and share a couple of things. But I think if we just keep moving through, Kelly's going to be everything behind the scenes. She's our technical guru. She's got us set up with a nice long list, and I'm going to have to put on my glasses so I can see what this list actually is. But the other piece that I wanted to share with you is the reason we put together a virtual reunion this year is because we wanted to make sure that we kept the idea of coming together at the forefront of our minds. We miss each other. It's hard enough this year with everything going on with the pandemic in all of our countries, no matter where we are, because I'm assuming we are all over the world today. We wanted to make sure that we had kind of a touchstone and a place where we could come together and remember and kind of whet our appetites one more time for next summer. So I don't have the exact dates for next summer, but I am fairly certain it's going to be the 3rd or 4th weekend in July. So please kind of block off your calendars if you can be there. I know that it's going to be a lovely time, and the committee has picked out a lovely place. I don't have the name of it, but I was able to look at it earlier when we thought we were going to do it this year. So definitely mark off some time on your calendar for next summer as we plan for that. And before we do anything else, I want to go ahead and open with a word of prayer. But I see some people using the chat, and that's the thing I wanted to share is if you've not used the chat function in Zoom before, it's that little text message looking box at the bottom. You can send a message to everybody in the whole group, or if you want to send a message to someone specific that you haven't seen in a while and you want to talk directly to them, you can actually do a drop-down menu to their name and just send a message back and forth to them. Leah Sauer-Meek is also helping us out tonight. Thank you, Leah. She's going to kind of manage that chat for us and let us know if we need anything. And that way you can say, Leah, I need such and such, or if you can't hear, or if somebody needs to be admitted. We're up to 56 participants. So I think this is really exciting. Yes, ma'am.
There is one thing. Someone asked if they could chat to someone specific. When I do my drop down, just the 2 co-hosts and everyone shows up. I don't know if it's possible to chat with everyone if we're not.
Oh, here we go.
Right,
there we go.
That's a setting in the Zoom for the Zoom co-host or host to set that allows us to chat with individuals.
So mine says participant can chat with everyone, but I don't know.
Only in our drop downs, it's only everyone and Kelly and Andrea. The
If
Okay,
you go
then.
to participants, you can see the entire list.
You can
But you
see the
can't,
list, but
but you can't chat with them.
chat.
Oh,
All
you're right.
right.
Yeah.
If someone knows how to do that, how to make it so that, I don't know if Kelly, when I look at like on the 3 dots there, which says participant can chat with, it says no one, host only, everyone publicly.
Yeah, let me try, Andrea. I will see if I can change that setting. I thought I had, I didn't realize that default was the way it was, because yeah, I do want everybody to be able to.
Sorry, Kelly, I muted everybody and didn't realize I was muting you. See, we're professionals, y'all.
So, as I was saying, yes, I will try to change the chat settings so everybody can chat in whichever directions and with whichever quantity of people you desire to chat.
Perfect.
And then we're gonna, Leah, I may send you texts if I get more technical questions. I may alert you to the technical questions to help solve them. So, if anybody's got issues like that, feel free to chime in right now. If you don't know how to turn your camera on, I might step through and hit the request camera, like request you to show your view on all the screens, because what usually happens then, I think, is that you see a little individual message saying, hey, we'd like to see your face, is that okay, right? In different wording. It's just something like allow camera. So if you get a message like that, it may help you troubleshoot that issue for issues like I'm having right now with somebody wanting to show themselves on camera and not knowing how to do it. So
All right.
we'll
Kelly,
power
are you
through.
ready to show? I'll go ahead and pray and get us started, and then you can pop up that first picture as soon as I'm done, okay? Let's pray as we begin. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time together. What a privilege to live in a time when we can actually come together with those that we love and we care for, even when we are not in the same place. We thank you for the shared heritage that we have. We thank you for the privilege of having lived much of our lives in the beautiful peninsula of South Korea. We thank you for the Korean people. We thank you for the culture. And we thank you for you taking all of us there at any given time, even some of us overlap and some of us didn't. And we thank you for that shared love of the people and the culture and each other. And we ask that tonight you would bless our time together and that we would have some beautiful memories and that we would just completely give you the glory for everything that we've experienced and all the wonderful things we have. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right, so I am going to start us off here and see if I can keep it to way under 3 minutes. But if you don't know me, like I said, I was raised in Seoul. My parents were Southern Baptist missionaries. Again, for those who have joined us since I said this at the very beginning, I'm Andrea McEachern Johnson. I am the one in the brown bathing suit in the front here. This is the life-saving course class of, I don't know, I guess 1982, maybe the summer of 82. In it, we have Barbara Jackson, Sam Folta, Debbie Wiggs, Jim Ritchie, of course, Kelly Reamer Cusick and David Starnes, and myself, the short one on the front. And if you don't remember David Bishop, he was the one I had to drag in for my life-saving final exam. And as a not quite 5'2" girl, it was a little bit of a challenge dragging Mr. Bishop in, who was quite the runner and very solid. But what I wanted to share this for was to kind of give, in a microcosm, a view of what Korea did for my time in Korea did for me. I was so profoundly changed and affected by the community that we had, both at the beach and in our own individual cities, that, I spent 20, 30 years afterwards trying to find that community. And it has now become the basis for the business that I am building. And I am trying to now create my own community that is inclusive and open and ecumenical and a safe place where people can try anything. Like a 5'1" girl can drag a big runner guy in from the swells. But part of what the beach atmosphere did for me was it was a place where I could be me. It was a place where I could just be myself and be accepted. And every year enter the tennis tournament knowing that somebody like John Krause was going to knock us out in the first round. And it didn't matter because we were all celebrated. And it was just such a unique experience being able to go every Sunday morning and hear somebody preach from a different denomination. And then that just felt normal to me. And I am so grateful for how how my experience shaped my life now. And it took me a while to understand that. But I think this is a group of people that completely do get it and definitely understand what that is like. But this picture, I remember this day. I remember every single swimming lesson I took from Barbara Jackson and Kathleen Autry. I remember all of my, swimming in between the poles. I remember I was the head lifeguard my senior year. I remember dragging that huge lifeguard stand down to low tide. And I did all of that because it was a time where I could be me, and I could do, a small girl could do those kinds of things. So it is, again, been something that has now shaped my business. I'm a speaker, trainer, and coach, and I coach women and I empower women. And because of what I learned there, I'm able to do that now. So that's why I am grateful for all of my time in Korea. And I see many people in this particular group tonight that played a big part in shaping me as to who I am. So thank you. That was me. So next we have, and the other piece I wanted to share is, if you find yourself in one of these photos that you didn't realize you were going to be in, like, I don't know that Kelly knew she was going to be in that photo, but feel free to say something in the chat, or if we have time, you can pop in later and we can actually, if it stimulates a memory, you can pop in and actually share it. So Leah Meeks is up next. Leah Sauer Meeks, my next door neighbor at the beach. Please share what you have for us.
All right, so I picked some pictures from a couple of the, let's see, can we turn it, Kelly? Well, anyhow, maybe not. A couple of the beach play productions that I got to be a part of. This is Oliver. I guess it was 1979, because I have just finished my freshman year. And in that picture, Steve Krause is in the middle, and that's Beth Underwood on the left.
So sorry, Leah. I
should have taken them the other direction on my phone, I guess.
No, totally my bad. We'll fix it in post, as they say.
That's okay.
Everyone else can turn their heads.
I'm sorry, there's like a little icon right at the top that may work. See that little right at the top? Oh, keep going.
At the top.
Has like that little arrow pointing to the left.
You might be oh, hang on a second. Yep, or that guy. Oh,
yeah. There you
There
go.
we go. All right.
I knew there was a reason I was here.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
So there's another one of the same show. Mark Matthews played Bill Sykes. The only time I really ever saw Mark as a grumpy guy, mad guy. And another third one from Oliver. And this is one of the reasons I really loved being in the beach musicals, was the intergenerational parts of it, that little kids to, our full-grown adults, and even the really older adults sometimes had parts in it. And pardon me, but I do not remember the man who played Fagin. What is his name? Someone can tell me that. That's Patricia Tice, one of the orphan boys there. And I was trying to remember who played Oliver. There's Oliver, I think that's David Jeffries. And Melinda McMinn, I think is the name coming, who played Dodger. I can't remember, but anyway, but those were some that were in my book. And then another one, after my senior year in high school, by the way, I went to Seoul Foreign School and graduated in 1982. So this was My Fair Lady. And I had the privilege of playing Eliza. And then this was Andy Schoengert, who played Henry Higgins in that one. I think that's Joe Jean Autry and Willa Kearns, I believe, was the housekeeper there. There's Kelly.
And that's Harkins, I believe.
Harkins. Gerald, maybe? Gerald
I think
Harkins?
so.
Yeah, okay. So it just was a real treasure. Andrea, I'm sorry I didn't pull up some of my pictures from the Fantastics, because I had that one as well that we did the next year. And Andrea was one of the, the lead roles in that, along with Mr. Poitras was in that one. I'm trying to remember who else was in that one. But that was just the beauty of it, to be able to be part of these. And we would get assigned these parts, you know, a month or so before we would go to the beach. We would practice them at home, and then we come to the beach, and then they would put out an all call at Vespers. Anybody want to be in the chorus? Everybody would just kind of show up, learn your parts in about 2 days, and then put on these really quite professional shows for the short period of time that we had. So that was one of the joys for me, Techon Beach and growing up in Korea.
Thanks, Leah. I have very fond memories of those as well. Dave, it looks like you've got your hand raised. Did you have something you wanted to share, Dave Hackett?
Sorry, no, that was to point out how to rotate the photos.
Perfect. So we have Dick and Karen Chase are next.
Okay. That's yours.
Yeah. Oh, did you unmute? This is a fond memory, having dinner at the U.S. Ambassador's residence together with Horace and Nancy Underwood. Thanks again, HH and Nancy. It was a special event. The Far East Broadcasting Company has children's choirs that tour both nationally and internationally, and we have the privilege of traveling with them 3 times.
You all recognize Gyeongbokgung. This is a place where we like to take our friends and family members that we're visiting, and we enjoyed being able to go there and walk through that facility. HLAZ in Jeju, 6-tower directional antenna transmitting the gospel with 250,000 watts of power, Japanese to the east, Korean to the north, and Chinese and Russian to the west, all composing the 22-hour broadcast day, all in turn, one language after another. The Pioneer Missionary Monument was a special event and a special thing for me. Let me read the inscription. Easter Sunday, April 5th, 1885, an American missionary, the Reverend and Mrs. Henry G. Appenzeller and the Reverend Horace G. Underwood landed here at the risk of their lives to bring the right light of truth of the gospel of Christ. In the following 100 years, the Korea Church has had a remarkable growth of 10 million believers, and their faith, and through suffering, has become a safe haven for the Korean people. We erect this memorial with a prayer that the missionary spirit brought by these 3 may endure, and that their faith may be a river of faith rising here and sweeping as a wave across the whole land and across to others around the earth. The Committee for the Preservation of Centennial Mission Monument. Sorry, I cannot resist thinking of Rub-a-Dub-Dub, 3 Men in a Tub, when I see the relief of the sculpture on the side of the monument.
Thank you very much. Those are beautiful. I had personally not seen those monuments, so what a treat to be able to see them. Do we have next? I think we have Kimmy Adams. Is Kimmy Adams in the?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, good. There you are.
I didn't realize we were going to be sharing about our pictures. So I had a family picture done before I came to Korea. I grew up in South Korea, but I don't have any of the older pictures. So I'm now living in Korea. I've been here 1 year. So this is the pictures I have. So I had my daughter and my son dress up in hanboks. And then I've hung this picture in my office at my work. And then the next picture is just something I've always remembered. I saw that here when I came, and that's always something that in my mind I remember of South Korea growing up. The next picture is when I first came, the new teachers actually went out and toured the city. And so this was some site that I had gone to. But again, I left Korea when I was 14. So I don't remember a lot of the places. and it's changed so much. So, but this, I believe, is the Han River going through the downtown Seoul. So just taking pictures of how much Korea has changed. And then this is a special holiday at the school where you probably know more about it. It's like a New Year type holiday where the kids dress up in hanboks and they come and receive like a gift, some money. And so they asked me to do that, to represent the person at the school to do that. So that was really fun. So I went out and actually took a lot of time going to the Korean markets to find a Korean hanbok. So yeah.
So Kimmy, you were there, you went away, and you're back.
Yeah, I left when I was 14, and then I've come back all these years, and Korea has really, really changed. But I'm excited to be here, and yeah. So
Excellent. I think we're doing really, really good on time. And has anybody seen any of these pictures that have sparked memories for you that you might want to pipe in with? No? Okay, then. Is Paul Kim on the call? Because I think we have pictures from Paul Kim next.
If Paul's not on with us, Andrea, then let's skip him, and I will go find, in the process of our gathering, his email with details and descriptions of what's in the photos, or if he shows up later, we can include him. So we'll skip to Debbie Rathman in a moment. Debbie, I'm opening up your file right now, so hold on. All right.
Debbie, are you ready to share?
Go ahead. Well, this is John.
That'll work.
Originally, we arrived in Korea in 1961, and things really have changed quite a bit. From the time I got there in 61 till the time my daughter taught at a hagwon 2 years ago. This is a picture of our family's prayer card as we arrived, missionaries to Korea in 61. And my dad and mom were a foot of height apart, so you can see that in the first photo. The second photo is our family as the years have passed. This is a photo in 81. And this is the last year our family was together before we went our separate ways and got married. Of course, I got married in 81 and to a young lady who's not in that picture. But the interesting things are the script about our family. Here's a photo of on the far left next to the tower, you'll recognize Seoul Tower, where I proposed to my wife. On the far left is my son Joshua, engineer in training at this time. My daughter Danielle, who's now Danielle Reynolds, and she has 2 children, one born and one going to be born soon. And then the third person, of course, is Deborah, my wife, whom I was able to find at Bryan College in Tennessee, and she was from Alaska. So I got to Alaska in 1981. We were married that winter, December, and we've been up here ever since. We enjoy the fact that my mother is able to come be with us, and we've told her not to just camp someplace and be alone, but rather sofa surf the children. So my mom gets to be with us. If you want to give us a screenshot, there we go. My mom gets to be with us for the time when we have throughout the year. So she's usually in Cabo, Mexico, Cabo San Lucas, for those of you who want to have a warm environment. She's down there for about half the year. With your sister. With Joanna, my youngest, my sister, the youngest of the 4 of us. And then she comes to Alaska and she stays with us here for a few months and tries to get in time when I'm not firefighting. And right now we have World Indian Esco Olympics that I'm working at a ice arena and helping them. And so I have to run off to work at 4. And of course, around the world, you all have different time zones. So here it's 3:30 almost. So so my mom spends a little time with my brothers in the Chicago and Indiana area in between the times when she's visiting either my sister or myself. So my daughter Danielle was excited about teaching. So she got a teaching certificate and degree and went to teach locally. And she was working with the special education needs in the classroom. And the school district came to the end of the year. They were not sure if they were going to be able to continue. And so what they did was they gave a pink slip to all the people in her department. Well, she planned ahead and said, I realize I do not have to teach just in Fairbanks. I could also teach abroad. And so she brought in these different venues she could be teaching at. So she could teach in China or Korea. And I said, oh, I love my time in Korea. You should go try it. Here are some Korean words before I leave for firefighting tomorrow. So I taught her a few Korean words and the concepts of respect. And so she went off and taught at Wijambu at a Hagwon there for 2 years. And we visited her at Christmas time each of those years. And then she came back, got married, and now she lives in Alabama. We want to say hi to all of you. We haven't figured out how to write a quick hello and respond to all of you who are graciously saying hello on the little blurb. Oh, there's one from Kelly. So we see them, but we haven't figured out how to say hi back. And we want to say hello to all of our Korean friends. And it's fabulous to see all of you, and want to just encourage an opportunity for this to happen again sometime.
Oh, and there's Debbie. Thank you, John. Aunt Joyce, you look really, really, really amazing in your life. Sounds awesome between Cabo San Lucas and Fairbanks, Alaska. I mean, that sounds like, that sounds fabulous.
Suffering.
Yeah, I know you're suffering, aren't you? Joanna and I graduated high school together. And so I'm very familiar with the Rathbun family. It's so sweet to see you guys. Thank you so much. That was a really, really, really good, wrap up and a really good share. Our next one is Evelyn McMullen. Is Evelyn on tonight?
No, I just unmuted.
Oh, great.
I'm Evelyn Worth McMullen, and my parents are George and Coffee Worth. They went to Korea in 1954 and were there. Well, I left in 1971, so a shout out to the rest of my SFS class of 71 people. That would be Lois and Bill and Brooks and Tom and who else? Anyway, so this is my kindergarten graduation. I was privileged to have my mother as one of the things she did in Korea was to train kindergarten teachers. So Kim Hwa-soo Sun-seng-nim is on the left. And she was a great family friend for years and years. I was a privilege of being in my mother's and Kim Sun-seng's class for 4 years. So it took me 4 years to get out of kindergarten, but it was always in our house, and my brother David Worth was in the class too. So I had great memories of that time. I had another picture that I couldn't get scanned very well, but it's a picture of my father, George Worth, and he and someone that he worked with. He had lots of different jobs in Korea, but he and someone that he worked with were just laughing and laughing over a joke. And that's one of the things that I always appreciated about my dad was he could tell a joke in Korean, and you know that was just a gift. So appreciated that time. But my parents taught me to, by example, to look for people on the margins. And that's been one of the things that has defined my life and my ministry. I'm in Christian education and just recently retired from a ministry to help congregations learn to include people with disabilities in their ministries. So that's been a real gift of the last 6 or 7 years that I've been able to do that. And it's nice to be retired. In Florida.
You're retired in Florida?
Yes.
Oh, that sounds great. I could use a little bit more Florida sun right now. Thank you so much, Evelyn. I think one of the things I remember about many of our missionary friends is that so many of them had great sense of humor, and to remind us that even though there were some things they went through that were really hard, and the things that they sacrificed, and the things that they let go of, leaving families behind, and all of that, they came with a joyful heart to this peninsula to do this wonderful work. So to be reminded of the sense of humor that many of them had, I think is a real blessing. So thank you for reminding us of that. I'm sorry we didn't get to see the picture though. So our next one is a Joy Yoon.
Yes, hi.
Hi.
Hi, my maiden name is Mercer. So Tim and Mary Mercer, my parents are actually on this call as well. And so, yeah, I think I'm the baby of this group. But
Really?
it's great. Yeah, it looks like I am, but maybe not. I don't know.
Well, we
It's
won't make
great.
you tell your age or anything. It's okay. It's okay.
This is also a picture of Techun Beach. My sister is on the right and I am on the left. My sister is Julie Mercer, also married now. But this is in front of cabin 62, and our parents were with the Church of the Nazarene. We had two cabins. It was either cabin 62 or cabin 80. And so every summer we would negotiate who would stay in what cabin for how many weeks, because we had to share it with the whole mission. But like many of you have shared, Techun Beach was one of the best memories growing up. And I've actually recently, well, recent meaning maybe 5 years ago, went back to the beach. And it was very sentimental for me, but it just felt very empty because not very many people were there. And what really made the beach was not just the beautiful sunset and the waves and all the activities. It was really the people and the community. And so that's really what I miss most about Techun Beach. The second picture, if you can go to the second picture. Yeah, this is a fun picture, and it's at a different beach. It's at Wonsan. If you guys know Wonsan, North Korea, we've been working, my husband and I have been working in North Korea for about 12, 13 years now. And you can see I'm the second person from the right, trying to revive my cheerleading jumps from KCA and TCIS. But actually, these are our team members and our actual local colleagues. Maybe one person is obvious, but if you can pick out, there's two people in there that are actually North Korean jumping with us. And the other two people are our teammates, Korean Chinese from China. And so, yeah, it's just really fun because Wonsan became a very dear place to us as we started working in North Korea. I had always heard stories from the beach, from Techun Beach, of how the beach in the north was actually more beautiful as the missionaries, the first generation of missionaries vacationed up there. And so that became a very sentimental place for us. And so whenever we could, we would go to Wonsan and spend time at the beach in the north. And our kids, we had 3 children at the time, now we have 5, but our kids even were able to spend 2 whole weeks doing like an international youth camp at Wonsan with kids from all around the world. So it was a really great experience. Yeah, so if anyone knows exactly where the former missionaries used to vacation in North Korea, please let me know and I will try to find that place and visit it.
So Joy, are you still going in and out of North Korea, or how does that work?
Right now, because of the pandemic, the borders are closed. So we're actually stationed in Taebaek, South Korea. If those of you who know, Taebaek is where Jesus Abbey or Yesuwon is. And so we're partnering also with Ben and Liz Torrey on different ministries here in South Korea. But our focus is to, as soon as the borders reopen from the pandemic, to go back inside. Yes.
That's really exciting. And, I left Korea in 1984, came back just for the summer of 86. And, for all of us, we hear about how the reunification is the one thing that they all dream of. And so knowing that that there's even any work that goes on. Of course, I'm clueless. I'm stuck here in Virginia. So, but it's exciting to me to hear work that goes on in North Korea. And I have very fond memories of another Nazarene missionary family. We were very good friends with the Schuberts. So I keep in touch with them some still. So welcome. Thank you so much for that. That was some really good stuff. Who do we have next? We have Dave Torrey. Dave, are you here?
Yes, yeah, I'm here.
Excellent.
I am Ben's younger cousin. So Ben Torrey is my Sachan Hyungnim. And this is a picture of Jesus Abbey. This would have been, I think, I want to say 1977, maybe. I am under the tree wearing glasses. And I'm all the way to the right of the picture. To my left is a Peace Corps volunteer, Jim Thompson, who every chance he got, he would come to visit the Abbey. And he had actually a very profound influence on me, because my time in Korea was only 2.5 years, and it was actually between high school and college. And it was because of something Jim told me that I realized that I really should go to college. And so after my time in Korea, I did go to college. I ended up getting an engineering degree and mathematics degree. Ben's sister Yancy is sitting on the ground there, and I imagine Joy probably knows Yancy. Next picture is the one you just clicked on. Is this is the front steps to the old part of the Abbey. I'm third from the top there. I don't know if anybody remembers the Kingsburys, but Paul Kingsbury was a agricultural missionary for United Presbyterian Church, and he actually built a house in the valley where Jesus Abbey is located. And his daughter Grace is just below Paul. Paul's the second one. He's standing right next to me. My uncle Archer is at the bottom of the steps there. He was born in China, as was my father, and he went to Pyongyang foreign school. So he actually made the trip. It was a rather arduous trip from, they were in Jinan, which is Shandong province. And I think it was a combination of a ferry and several trains to get to Pyongyang. And so my father was not old enough to go. He was the very youngest of the family. But I have a wonderful Taechon Beach story that I found out from my Aunt Jane, Uncle Archer's wife. My grandparents, the China missionaries, they were missionaries in Korea, basically to start an amputee program. My grandfather was an amputee from World War II, and he started an amputee program through Church World Mission, I want to say. I think it was through one of the hospitals, one of the Christian hospitals in Seoul. And they would summer in Taechon Beach. And one summer there was an Anglican bishop visiting. And my grandmother she was from Georgia, and she always had a 4 o'clock tea time. And she thought, well, it would be nice to invite this bishop over for tea. And it was during this visit that he saw a picture of my Uncle Archer, who was an Episcopalian priest, and he had his Episcopal collar on. And it started a conversation because, my grandparents were United Presbyterian missionaries, surprised that, there would be an Anglican priest in the family. And it was because of that meeting that this bishop got to know about my Uncle Archer. And he invited Uncle Archer out to reopen the Anglican seminary in Korea. And so he did that from, I want to say late 50s to like 1965. And he started Jesus Abbey in 1965. And it was because of Jesus Abbey that I was in Korea. And that whole experience just changed the whole direction of my life. And you know, Korea in the 70s, especially in Gangwon-do, you know, Taebaek was called Hwangji back then, and it was a very dirty coal mining town, and everything we heated with Yuntan coal. And you know, you did not want the Yuntan to go out because that was just such a major hassle to try to get those bricks started again. And it was one of the biggest adventures of my life. So I do recognize some of the names here, and I'm really glad that you organized this. So it was having a great time listening to all these stories.
Well, David, those are some fantastic stories. You know, for those of us who arrived there in the mid 70s and later, we don't know all of the stories of how things got started. So thank you so much for sharing. That was some really good stuff. Really good. I'm sure plenty of people have been to Jesus Abbey, and plenty of people have enjoyed religious retreats there and good spiritual renewal there. And to know how it got started and to see these early pictures is really exciting. Thank you so much. Okay, I think next we have pictures from the Judy family.
I want to answer Joy's question first. It was the beach on East Coast was Wajimpo, and it's in South Korea because I've been there. It's on the East Coast, very going up north, but it's I've been there once with Mom and Dad a long time ago.
Mom said it was Surrey Beach.
Well, Surrey was on the West Coast, wasn't it?
Yep. That's where.
Okay. On the West Coast, that's where the Underwoods had their.
Surrey was where Mom went when she was a kid.
But they ended up going to Wajimpo, right?
I'm sure they did, because they got kicked out somehow for some reason. I forget why.
Anyway, that's my sister talking to me. This is we went back in 2006 where the World Methodist Council met in Seoul, and they invited former Methodist missionaries to come to be recognized as a part of the program. And Mom and George Sidwell were the two that went, and that my sister Joy is standing right next to Mother. And we were there. That's at First Methodist Church in Wonju, Korea, in Wonju, where we were where I grew up till I went away to school in Seoul and then to the States. Dad built the hospital was in charge of building the hospital there. And I went back in 2015 for a program in connection with that, and my daughter went with me. But that's the picture she took of Dad that sits there as a part of the history of Wonju Christian Hospital, Wonju Severance Christian Hospital. Boy, that's an old picture. And that's our family. Mom and Dad's on the left, Mother's next to her. On the next two are my grandmother and granddaddy, Myrtle and Lyman Brandon. They were Mother's parents. Mother was born in Wonsan, went to Pyongyang High School, but they lived most of their time in Chuncheon. And that's my sister. I'm in the middle. My sister Carlene is on my right. And I guess that's Joy on the left and Esther on, Esther on the right. Esther in front of Dad and Joy in front of Granddad. You think that's right, Esther?
No, I'm beside Carlene.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah, you're beside Carlene. And Mother grew up. I've never heard the definition, but I'm sure that's the mission house in Chuncheon, where Mother grew up. And that's a picture of Mother when she was a young lady. And I have no idea who that is with her. And that's just a picture of the river in Chuncheon. to remind us how hard women had to work in those days and how a lot of the time was spent at the river washing clothes. This is an old picture. It says 1931. Granddaddy is right. He's right at the post there on the left. And there are a lot of other people in there. I have no idea who they are. But I thought somebody might recognize somebody along the way. But that was an early organization of the church in Korea.
Okay, I have to say there's a certain amount of having siblings on here that's really kind of fun. It's nice to have you back and forth because then you get to share all the really good juicy stuff. But how excellent for Joy that she was able to get an answer to your question that fast. Thank you so much. This is really, really good. Thank you very much to the Judy family, Carl and Esther. It's really good
Lois
stuff.
Sauer would like to know whether Charles Sauer is in that picture we just saw.
Oh,
he could be. He could be.
Can we go back and see?
We're trying.
I understand.
And while Kelly's bringing that up, I hope you all notice in the chat that Judy Steele had put her email address in there to get updated information for next year's Korea reunion.
Yes, and we are going to have, Judy doesn't know this yet, or maybe she does, but in just about 15 minutes, we're going to give Judy the actual stage, the platform here to kind of give us an update on all of that.
Where do you think, Carol?
He's not popping out at us.
I'm not sure whether this is it or not. I have anyway, 1931, it's possible that it could have been there. Granddaddy's on there, Wes.
Yeah, Granddaddy's right there by the column on the right hand side. Lyman Brannon, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Fun. Thank you so much. I love it when people are showing up without knowing who's going to be in the pictures. Next, we have a couple more, and then we're going to take a brief break. How about Kathy Breer? Kathy Portress Breer? And before Kathy gets in here to share her stuff, I'm going to jump in and say, if you haven't seen Kathy's artwork, you're missing out because it's gorgeous.
Everyone. So wonderful to be here and see everybody, and it's just fills my heart. That's Touch on Beach. I had to share that one. That's a long time ago, though. I think it's changed a lot since then. And then this was interesting. This is the I don't know how to say it, but it's in at Hayensa, and that's Jim Grayson. I don't know if anyone remembers the Graysons. That's a dorky me holding one side, and my brother Peter and my mother behind. And I'm sure that those are behind glass, or I'm sure you're not allowed to touch those anymore, but back then we were able to touch them. And then I love this picture of Leah Sauer, Betty Sauer, Kevin, and my brother Peter and me. Kevin Moore, sorry, in my backyard.
Kathy, I missed what you were saying those pieces were that you were touching. What was that again?
That's those are those carved scrolls, the Triptaka, I think they call them, from Hayensa Temple. They're from like the 13th century. I'm sure that you can't touch them anymore, but you know, back in those days, we were able to touch them and hold them, and it was pretty cool.
And they were used for printing, like
yeah.
They're copies of the Buddhist scripture. They were carved as a prayer to Buddha to protect Korea from a Chinese invasion back in, I don't know, 1300, 1400, no, probably 1300.
Oh, look at that.
Like that.
Really cool. It's so
I did a
nice.
paper on them when I was at SFS.
Thank you for elaborating. I was woefully unprepared.
Well, but you know what, y'all, this is exactly what this is for. I mean, part of it is just to remember the beautiful things and the poignant things that we saw and did, and then to have everybody else just kind of come together and say, oh yes, and this and this and this. And that's what community means, right? Community means coming together and having a shared identity and a shared unity. So I think it's beautiful. Thank you. That's perfect.
Thank you.
And if you didn't hear me earlier, you've got to check out Kathy's art. It's gorgeous. I've had her poster calendars on my wall before. They're just really beautiful stuff. All right, who do we have next? Oh, Lois Sauer. And you'll need to unmute yourself, Aunt Lois.
That's my husband, Bob, on a hike between Tachon Beach and Daejeon, from Tachon Beach. And he was, took a moment to sit down and I took a picture of him. But I just wanted to bring him back into the story.
So that's the late 1980s,
Yes,
1970s.
in the 80s, I think. And this is another picture of Bob and our daughter Jean and her baby Gwendolyn. And I think that this is on the at Tungbrook Palace, going across the bridge there. So, no great history, but it's family. Thanks.
No, but can I get this? Can I get the story straight here? You're not telling me he hiked from Tachon to Daejeon.
No.
Oh, ma'am. Stop for a rest along the way.
So it was just a nice
put
stop.
it past him, Andrea.
I wouldn't put it past him either, but no, he didn't.
I just wanted to make sure we had the story straight because it sounded pretty amazing. Thank you so much for bringing, and I'm sure there are plenty of us who would like to bring other people back into the story that may or may not be with us any longer. So if there's anybody that would like to do that too, maybe we can take some time a little bit later to do that. Let's take time for one more before we take a quick break. How about Irene Ward?
I was Irene Davis when I was in Korea. I was a captain in the Salvation Army. And the first picture, I think, yeah, there it is. That's when we had the big flood while I was there, and we were distributing pots and blankets and food and utensils to the people when they were put in another area, and they had nothing. And so we took thousands and thousands of these things to the people. Next. So this is Sorak-san, climbing Sorak-san, and probably many of you have done that. And thinking about that, I've also been to Jesus Abbey, so that was interesting to see that. The next one is that young son that at Protestant Women of the Chapel at 8th Army. And for a period, I was the president of the Protestant Women of the Chapel there. And I was also a bilingual translator for 8th Army for a while. So, and then Tachon Beach, it needs no explanation. And in 2008, I was invited back to the 100th anniversary of the Salvation Army in Korea. So like everybody so far has said, it's changed a lot. But it was wonderful to be back and renew acquaintances with people and to visit places that, although had changed a lot, were still dear to my heart. And one of them was to visit Tachon Beach in September, and we kind of got through the gate, even though we weren't supposed to be there. And so it was kind of fun to be there and just see the old beach again for a few moments. Thank you for organizing this. It's been great to see everybody. I was there from 1966 to 1975.
Thank you so much, Irene. We overlapped just 1 year there. I would love to go back and see Tachon Beach. And I'll tell you, as somebody who hasn't been able to go back in a while, those of you who go and post a lot of pictures on Facebook is just salve to our souls. So thank you so much for those of you who can do that. I'd like to take a break just here halfway through, and I want to pull Judy Steele into the conversation and let her share a little bit about what will happen in our in-person reunion, hopefully next summer. She and Supak have put this, who are the ones who are the organizers of all of this, and they have done immeasurable hours of work. And she did put in the chat that she needs your email address if you want to make sure you're on the list so that she can make sure you have everything you need. But I'm wondering, Kelly, if we could potentially put Judy up as the speaker here and let her share with us a little bit about what the plans are for next summer. Judy, are you available to do that for us? You'll need to unmute yourself.
I'm in the process of doing that. Just a little slow. At least you gave me a heads up, Andrea. I won't tell the story I know on you.
I'll tell the story, but she was my PE teacher and my cheerleading coach. So I've known Judy a long time and she knows secrets about me, but we're not going to share them today.
That's what I was meaning. I went to Korea with a team in the summer of '74 as a summer missionary. And if I can indulge just a little bit here, just a little bit, I went that summer and worked in the Bible bookstore for that team had. Am I on?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I can't tell. I could tell, but then I couldn't. And then I went back after I finished 2 years of teaching here in the United States, then went back and taught at Soul Foreign School. The money the school would have paid me, they paid Team Mission so our kids could go to school. And that helped pay their tuition. So that was good. And I was there for 3 years from 77 to 80 and taught PE and coached several of the sports. So I had Leah and Kelly, I think, I don't remember if you were in there, and Andrew, some of y'all had been PE and some as I coached in sports, but I first heard of Korea from the Rathbans when I babysat Joanna as a baby during the summer Bible conference at Bryan College. And so that's how I knew the Rathbans and how I got to Korea and back to that. All right, but next thing on the agenda is, sorry, I just had to put a little bit of that in so you would know who I was and why I was on this. But I am co-chair with Supak of the Korea Reunion Committee, and we've planned it now for 3 times. And some of our committee has had to drop off. In case some of y'all don't know, Jonathan and Sanoke Borden have had to have returned to Korea. He has been invited to be the Youngsan International School principal for 1 year. So they left Sunday and are in quarantine right now. So that's 2 of our 5 committee. Debbie Lentz was the other main one on our committee. And then we had some in the earlier time, some Kelly, Mike, Amy Howard, Justice, those have helped from time to time. Our next meeting will be hopefully in person. If they don't, Sue and I aren't sure we're going to hang around for another year of planning. We planned it 3 times now, but hopefully we'll be able to have it next summer. And it is right around the same time, the 3rd weekend of July. And right now we have, because of some issues and the survey that we did the last in-person we had, people wanted to move out of Lake Junaluska because of the hard time they had getting into that spot and that kind of thing. There are different arrangements and things like that. We've negotiated a fairly good, better than we ever got there that I know of, better accommodations and better financially for us. And it is at Lake Williamson in Carlinville, Illinois or Indiana. I can't never remember which one's which when I'm trying to speak without my notes and didn't have time to get my notes.
I believe
But
you told me it was Illinois.
Illinois, I believe you're right.
That's correct.
That was sticking in my mind. So that's where it will be the next time. And the prices, you won't be sending money to them to book your room. You'll be sending that to us, and we'll assign the rooms and all that stuff. So you don't have to have your, Korea reunion fee sent to one place and your hotel sent to another place. It'll all come to the same place. And if anybody has any questions, you can email anything else you want to know, or is anything anybody else wants to know while I'm on here.
Did you give us the dates yet?
I'm thinking, I don't know exactly. I'm in the process of renegotiating that contract with Lake Williamson, but I'm thinking it's that same third weekend, whatever weekend that is.
That's kind of traditionally been when we've done it, is the third weekend of July.
Right, and that's the one we're trying to get again because everybody's used to coming at that time.
All right.
By the way, if you get MailChimp stuff from MailChimp, that is our email blast so that I don't have to sit down and type in 500 and something, which is the amount of the list right now, 500 or 600 people on our list. And so I don't have to type each one of those in individually. We use a service and it's called MailChimp. So if you get something from MailChimp, open it and tell your friends to open it, because we're only getting about half the opens that we send out. So that half the people didn't know about this today because they didn't open their emails, and they might think it's spam, but it's not. It's from us.
So check your junk mail folder. Tell your friends to check your junk mail folder. And we have 68 people on here tonight. I think this is a really, really great turnout.
That's double what we had last year.
Yeah, so we're doing great. And Judy, if you would not mind putting your email in the chat one more time, just because as it moves up, people may not be able to see it or go through and find it. And that way they can make sure they email you just to check to make sure that they have their name on the list. Does anybody have any questions about the reunion next year before we move on to the next set of pictures?
I've got a technical question for you. You're recording this. I assume that will be, pardon me. I assume that will be available. Are you going to also record the chat? Save the chat to a file?
Yes, we are going to be saving the chat to a file. And if you want to, at the end, before we shut it down, you can actually go into the chat and hit download, and then you can download it all. But we will be saving it. It automatically, Kelly and I talked about that earlier. It automatically sends her a printout. So when we post this in the Facebook group, we will also post the document for the chat as well. And then Judy's also in the middle of updating our website, is the reunion website. Is that correct, Judy?
Yes.
And I think that this will be posted on that website, and we will make the chat available as a document on that website. So that way you'll still have access.
Also, it's on our Facebook. We'll be on our Facebook site also.
Yes. So you will have access to all of this.
And for those who want to save the chat, I know I had been in a billion Zooms before anybody mentioned that was possible. Depending on how your screen is laid out, in the area where you would type in a chat to someone else right now, on the far right of that is probably 3 little dots. And those 3 little dots, if you click them, will probably give you a choice to download and save the chat. And so it ends up a text file on your own computer. And yeah, absolutely. We want this to be feasible for everybody to keep in touch with each other, however you want. That's a great thing.
And if you want to put your email address in there so that people can email you, please do so. And when you click those 3 little buttons, the very first thing that you should see, even though I'm a host, the first thing you should see says save chat. And when you hit save chat, that should do it for you. All right, let's move on to the next set of pictures. We have Folta pictures in the house. I have been in touch with Nancy Folta recently, who's also up in Alaska. John Rathbun, if you didn't know that. And Sam Folta, this would be the second picture of Sam Folta because he was in mine earlier.
Hello.
Hello.
I think most of my pictures are self-explanatory. This is our fourth child, Sam, who married Unsu Kim Unsu, and they are recently kicked out of China and looking for another way they can get back into, get a visa to work there. You know, there's a lot of persecution in China. They have 4 children and all grown up, all love the Lord. The next picture is probably my husband teaching when we did go and help Sam in China right after we retired from Korea at the University of Science and Technology. The next picture is while we were there in China, we were able to step into North Korea. You can see where China had shoveled the snow, but North Korea had not. And that's where North Korea starts. And of course, their dream when they went there was to go into North Korea someday. And they were able to do that with a sister university for a couple of semesters. But it was not easy, and it was very limiting as to how much evangelism they could do or how much church planting they could do. But that is what their aim was. Then we're back in South Korea in the midst of my activities with spiritual care at the Jesus Hospital Nursing School. I have the second-year student nurses doing case studies on patients, and of course, every patient had a caregiver. So there, and sometimes the whole ward would be the congregation that was listening to what was being done. Sometimes singing, sometimes listening, sometimes using their personal resources, but always evaluating where a patient was spiritually and trying to meet their spiritual needs. You can see some of the interplay in the next couple of pictures. That's a textbook in the green book and that we created for the classes. We had lectures, but we also had the bedside case studies. And you can see the earnestness on the faces of people. And then we had many opportunities to sing in the churches. We'd sing duets. And of course, we learned a lot. We made a lot of mistakes. We didn't know that it was kind of too chummy to share a hymn book. And so we got laughed at quite a bit about that. We didn't know that it wasn't a good idea to wipe your nose and then put your hanky in your pocket. So, you know, we learned a lot over the 40 years that we were there. But we had wonderful time, as you'll see in the next picture, with young people wanting to go as missionaries abroad. And we met in our home where many of those have indeed gone as missionaries. The little churches that you'll see in the next picture are typical of how the churches got started. This one is, I believe this is on Jeju Island, where we would go a couple of times a year and set up shop. I mean, live in the presbytery office and kind of camp. But these are wonderful people. There were many churches because the transportation between churches was not that good. Of course, this is very typical of the kind of inside of the church would be. And I would sometimes have to play the organ when there wasn't anybody else to play it with one finger. It's good to be with you all. Wonderful to see you.
Wait a minute, with one finger? You just hit one key or just hit one finger and it would play the right thing?
Play the melody line, you know, that's about it.
I gotcha. I understand. We had plenty of faux pas in singing in Korean churches as well, singing words that weren't the right words. So thank you for sharing those. Those are great pictures. So we have Ben Van Leerup.
Hi, everyone. It's great to see everyone. This is me, current Ben Van Leerup. I used to be called Benny, so if you want to refer to me as Benny, that's just fine. I graduated from Sophorn School in 1965. This photo was taken in Colorado, but the reason I have it here is that to kind of talk about how Korea has made an impact on me growing up in Korea. And the photo shows a map, and I see myself as a bridge between Korea, and then I lived in Japan as an adult for 17 years after college, and so I feel like I'm a bridge between Korea, Japan, and the U.S. And from I usually say, let's see, being across, going across the Pacific from the land of 10,000 lakes. So being a bridge across the Pacific from the land of 10,000 lakes, which everyone knows, I hope is Minnesota. So yeah, Korea, for me, one story I was going to mention to you was that we lived in Korea. I went there first when I was just 2 years old in 1949. And then the Korean War started, and we were evacuated to Japan. So I spent some formative years in Japan, and that's the reason I went back to Japan years later. But we went back to Korea, and my parents were assigned to Andong, the small provincial city in southeastern Korea. And while we were there, my parents really encouraged us to make friends with our friends, Korean friends around our house in Andong. So so we did that, and the our Korean friends taught us to play soccer, 축구 in Korean, of course, 축구, and manse koko, which is Wesley Judy will relate to this Korean game, manse koko, which is something like kick the can that we play. And so they taught us that game, and you know, they taught us Korean language, of course, because we had been living in Japan and forgot all our Korean, and now so they helped us to brush up really to learn Korean. And so we taught them, we taught them Monopoly. And my wife is, we would read the cards of Monopoly and translate them into Korean. I don't know how we did that, by the way, but we did that. And so our Korean friends would, make their moves, and when the Park Place, you're landed on Park Place, say that in Korean real fast. But anyway, my wife, who's from Minnesota, but also lived in China for 3 years, tells me, okay, you taught them how to play Monopoly, and now look at the Korean economy now. So, we had a little part of that. That's just a joke, but anyway.
It sounds like it's very feasible, though.
So that's just one example of just so many stories, and I hear these stories that you all are telling, that living in Korea, very different culture, and our parents, of course, who were missionaries, were very dedicated to in serving the Korean people, but in their love of the culture and the language. And this really, in our family, this really rubbed off on us. I have two sisters, by the way, Marty Balasik and Eleanor Warrington, who are on the Zoom with me today. Not with me; they're in different in different spots. But so we really learned a lot about and enjoyed living in Korea. And for me, it's I'm a TCK, third culture kid, and many of you can relate to that. So I spent much of my life trying to figure out, who I was and where I belonged. And that's been a lifelong pursuit. And so I'm now living in Minnesota, married a woman who understood my international background, fortunately. And she puts up with me in with the wanderlust that I have, wanting to go back to Korea. And so I've been fortunate to get back to Korea and lived in Japan for a number of years. And so I really see myself as a bridge, being able to communicate. I speak Japanese. I served as, not officially, but as an interpreter often in my life in Japan with Western visitors. And I was also able to do a little bit of that in Korea when I was living there as a VIM, and revisited Korea after college. So just to let you know that I'm sure many of you can relate to this, we are ambassadors, we are bridges, and that's a very important function the role we play, because so many people have misunderstandings, and misunderstandings come from a lack of knowledge, and also the lack of exposure to other cultures, and that's so I take that on as a challenge. That's wonderful. We have a role to play in this life, and so that's my role. And thank you very much for letting me share.
Thanks,
Can
Ben.
Can I
Yes.
just add something?
Yes, please.
I'm Ben's younger sister, and when Ruth, when you were showing those pictures of singing at the church, Ellie, my sister and Ellie and I often did that. My parents would preach, and then we would sing at a Korean church. So that brought back memories, seeing you do that. And of course, Ben played too. We were a singing family. So, but anyway, that was my little addition to this whole event. So.
Excellent.
Thank
You
you,
know,
Marty.
we love the addition. That's great. I will tell you, I'm going to have to make a long list of the things that I've learned on this call. And one of them was that Manse Koko was actually a Korean game. I just thought it was our game. I had no idea it was a Korean game, and I couldn't figure out why nobody in the States knew how to play. So now I know. Thank you. I've been educated tonight already. This is excellent. Thanks so much. Kelly, we have next Rand Chesser.
Yes, and Rand produced, I'm not sure if Rand is on with us. Feel free to unmute and interrupt me, Rand, if you are. But Rand produced a number of years ago a video called Sacred Halls about Seoul Foreign School. It is long, it's 35 minutes long. So with our time constraints for today, we're just gonna play a little bit, like 2 minutes of the beginning of it. And then that'll give you all a taste. If you haven't seen it before, that'll give you a taste of what his work is like with that particular labor of love, I think is probably an appropriate term for it. And then we will get that posted in a public location where you can watch all of it at some other time when you're not suffering potentially from Zoom fatigue, right? So I'm gonna hit play because I believe I'm gonna stop share, and then I'm going to hit play after I tell the system that it also needs to share audio. And now we'll watch just a little tiny bit of the beginning of Rand's film, Sacred Halls. Sorry.
In the beginning, the children of the early missionaries were taught at home. Korea had opened her doors to the West in 1882, and by the early 1900s, the foreign community had begun to grow. It was on April 19th, the spring of 1912, that Mrs. Charles Deming of the Methodist Mission formed an association with 22 charter members. From that gathering, it was they who laid the foundation of what would become Seoul Foreign School. In the fall of 1912, the school opened its doors in one room of the Peje Methodist Boys' School. By the end of the first school year, 27 students were enrolled. And for the next 4 years, Miss Ethel Van Wagoner was the only full-time teacher.
Okay, I'm hooked. I eagerly await being able to watch the whole thing, and I think that's very exciting. I know I've also seen some gorgeous pictures of what Seoul Foreign School looks like now, and I'm sure those of you who didn't go to Seoul Foreign School are wishing we had a video as well, or a film for some of the other schools that we all had friends that attended, and some who did attend. So we're grateful for that. And as Kelly said, she and I were discussing how we might make that public, but we will figure out a way and make sure that you can see it if you would like to see it. Reminds me a little bit of Ron Moore's Tetchen Beach video film. Okay, so next we have Jim Rathbun. I saw him on here earlier.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for, yeah, I threw in a few pictures just to, not too many of them are old, and I'm sorry I didn't bring too many of the old ones, but we'll start off here with some pictures just of the reunion last time. And so there's Joel, my siblings, and the Raiders as well. So, and I know they're on the call here. And then another group of team folks. Well, we invited the Lenses to join our group there too. So great to see all of the folks there. I wanted to also just point out that there's my dad and mom in the foreground, in the background, Ross and Inky Beach. And both my dad and Inky Beach have passed away and are with the Lord now. So actually, Ross Beach just wrote a book about their time in Korea and then in Chad. They were missionaries with team there. Let's see what else we have. I'm just kind of going through these pictures. There's our team clan, including Judy Steele and Dick and Karen Chase, and the Beaches, and my siblings there too. So moving on down to another picture perhaps you got. Well, that was one of the memories that I had. I think I sent in a few pics. One of the memories was the 1979 and 1980, kind of a highlight there of my time in Korea, was winning when our team had the winning Far East tournament basketball team. So that is the bag that I was actually presenting to Jack Moon that evening. And if they want to put it in the archives at Seoul Foreign School, but that was one of our bags that we had. So yeah, well, that was one of my highlights, was playing basketball there. Couple other highlights there. Of course, there's some of the other missionaries, my folks, and the Beaches and the Chases that were there. It's been great. Just here's some pictures of some food that you all might remember on some of my recent trips to Korea. I was first in Korea, born there in 1962. Mom and Dad had gone over on the boat, the Oregon Bear. And there's a few pictures that might kind of remind you of what it's like now. I've had a number of opportunities to go back over there in recent years, actually trying to pick up on some of the ministry, and particularly engaging those from the north, kind of like been connecting with Joy and many others who have had opportunity to equip the next generation of workers to engage those from the north. And of course, the many, like 30,000 that are in South Korea today. So that's some of our focus. After graduating Seoul Foreign School in 1980, I went on to Wheaton College and then got a teaching degree to teach missionary kids, went to Venezuela. So my Spanish built on what I had there at Seoul Foreign School. And then I was in Venezuela for 13 years. But that's where I think I probably had a good time to really understand the whole reentry and TCK as we processed with the MKs with whom we worked. So that was actually very therapeutic for myself. Just a few other shots here. Enjoying the different food. Now, some of these are from a place you all might remember, and I know many of you talked about Tedchun Beach, but I do remember the summers there at Camp Mount Pines was at the Korea Christian Conference grounds the team had. The grounds are still there. In fact, this is a recent picture actually from kind of like probably 2015, a few years ago. It's been fixed up a whole lot more since then and a lot more buildings. Maybe I have a few other pictures there, but these might bring back some memories. I'm sure some of you went to Camp Mount Pines. Oh, there's another Korean Air picture. I just at the last minute put a whole lot of pictures out there to Kelly. So Kelly, thanks for just taking these. There's some good food that I thought you guys might like to see, just kind of good memories. Now there's another Camp Mount Pines picture. And I don't know, I put these in here because for me, these were places where I really grew in my faith. And of course, growing up as in a Christian home as a missionary kid, I knew the gospel and understood it, but it was those times during the summer when we stepped away and had a camp. I remember being there as a camper and then as a counselor, but really had some times of spiritual growth in my life, in my walk with God. Now, this is going way back to when, soon after we arrived in Incheon, and I was born there at the Seoul Seven's Pyongwon that was down by Seoul-York. That's the train station. That's where I was born. There was a Scandinavian doctor apparently that delivered me. And anyway, then we moved out to the East Coast, and this is pictures of Kwangdong College, Eastern Korea Christian College, that team I was working on. And that's just a good picture from way back in the day, converted, digitized from a slide that my parents had. And in that picture before that, in the back of the truck were the Rathbun kids, 3 of them. And I think my brother Joel was on the far back there. I was like in the middle with the red, white, and blue. And my brother John Mark in the back right. And I believe there are some Pearson kids, at least the back left, maybe Jenny in the front right, Eric. And I can't remember who all there are, but basically Pearson kids, maybe the Cornelsons were there too, of course, with team, and the Gruzis and the Revises and not a lot of other team MKs. So anyway, some of you might remember some of those folks. That was out in Ponam-dong, which is out in where actually the site of the Olympics was, one of the sites of the Olympics. I looked and zoomed in there. Of course, the Ponam-dong houses are totally gone, but that's where some of the Winter Olympics, Pyeongchang Olympics was held. That's another picture looking at Camp Mount Pines there with the mountain behind. And they've got a whole lot of new buildings built up now, but it's nice to know that it's still going on and serving as a Christian conference center. That's what used to be Christophilus House or Revis's house. And that's Glenn and Edith Revis were there at the time. I know we got some more airplane pictures, but I probably sent far too many pictures. And there we are coming up the hill. There's the chief right there on the left. So if any of you want to just good old memories I have of going out there to Camp Mount Pines. I don't know if there's any other pictures there I may have had. Just, of course, this is the almost 12-hour flight, and that's what it looks like when I get on the plane. Haven't been on a plane for a year like most others, and we're praying that God opens the door so we can get back there to see that. Now, one of my earlier trips back before the high school building was taken down, this is probably 2015. And so there's a shot for those who want to reminisce about the Seoul Foreign School High School. And that's the one about the basketball. One of my big memories there. When I visited, I'm holding the plaque there of the 1980, and of course 79 and 80, both years. We were undefeated, like 40-0 those 2 seasons, and really had a hardworking team. Of course, the Krauses and the JP Raider and others were key players on the team, but I just remember being a part of that. It was a lot of fun. So there you are at the Chief. A few just other pictures of the conference grounds. That's been replaced by a bigger building with a big chapel. And there's some other good bulgogi there. I like this North Korean style, this North Korean bulgogi restaurant. Really like the way they prepare it, and just other food dishes for those of you who remember that. And of course, I think John and Debbie pointed out that that's where they were engaged. They're at Namsan Tower, and just thought I'd throw that in for other good pictures for folks. Anyway, just great to be with you here. My wife and I are continuing on as missionaries with team, and we're continuing to really try to engage the people from the north, taking short-term teams from churches over there and equipping folks, working with Joy and others like out there at in Tebek, trying to send some folks there that can be equipped to work and be ready to go minister in the north when God opens the doors. So that's kind of our role, come full circle. Really quite exciting for me to come full circle. Never thought God would have me back in this particular role. We actually live in Illinois outside of Wheaton College and are working to mobilize folks from there. So
thanks, Jim. This was really exciting. And for me personally, I remember all of those basketball games. I was a junior varsity cheerleader and so I remember those teams, and I remember how exciting it was for you. And of course, we didn't get to travel to Okinawa with you, but we remember all of that. And I was wondering if someone was going to bring up Camp Mountain Pines, because I agree with you. And being able to see the fire pit and remembering specifically who ministered and spoke into our lives as teenagers and elementary school kids. That was a really, really precious place for so many of us. And I know that it has made a difference in many, many lives. So thank you for sharing those fantastic memories. That was great. Sarah Cumming Mitchell.
We're doing a change up here. Byron's got to leave pretty quick, so Byron is actually up next.
Go, Byron.
Okay, I'm starting my video here. I didn't start it earlier because I still have young kids and they leave the house in kind of a mess, and I didn't want you to have to clean up my house visually in your head while I was.
None of us have messy houses here.
Yeah, but I did put some Korean flags behind me. I don't know, I can't see myself on here, but some Korean flags. I took some. This one out of a package. It's been in the package since 1968. So I put that out today. Anyway, many of you don't know me. I actually lived in Korea when I was a baby, but I grew up actually as a missionary kid in Papua New Guinea, mainly, but we were there for a brief time. I'm going to go ahead and put my email address and my website up here. But my grandfather was where's that document? Okay. My grandfather, there's a picture just before we went to Korea. So and it became our prayer card down below. And my parents taught at a Seoul Foreign School. They were actually the first husband-wife contracted teachers to teach at Seoul Foreign School. I'm the crying baby to the left. And my sister Erin was born in Korea. So they were there from 1967 to 1968. If any of you have the 1967 or 1968 Seoul Foreign School yearbooks, my mother is the one that did kind of hand-drawn portraits of the seniors. Maybe that's a way some of you could remember them. Anyway, my grandfather was also a missionary to Korea, 1928 to 1941. In Seoul, then in Songdo, which is Kaesong, and then later in Kimwa. And he married my grandmother, Han Hong-bok, who was a Methodist missionary. They married in 1938, and she was from Kaesong, Songdo. So we have, he left Korea in 1941. They're intending to go back. But my grandma, then World War II happened, and my grandmother got tuberculosis. That delayed them a couple extra years. And then by then, the Methodist Church kind of dismissed my grandfather in a way because he was a little too conservative for their tastes. And so he was unable to go back with the Methodists when they got back there. So he joined the Nazarene Church. They did go back in 1976. Anyway, they remained involved in the Korean church the whole time they were alive. He died in 2012, which made him the last of the pre-1945 missionaries that was still alive. So, except for a couple of Seoul Foreign School teachers. So if you could have talked to a 110-year-old in 2012 and gotten a whole bunch of Korean stories. anyway, and my family, I've been the English pastor at 2 Korean churches. And actually, my wife and I are missionaries ourselves, but we work at a Japanese church now. So helping them out. So, but our family has remained kept in ministry to Koreans for almost 100 years now. I tell my brother, who's currently involved in ministry to Koreans, that he has to keep going for 7 more years to make it a even 100. So one reason why I'm on here too is not only just our love for the Koreans and growing up as missionary kids, is because many of you, I have fallen in love with your stories and I know your names. Some of you I have talked to directly. I'm most often in contact with Donald Clark, Jack Vogel, Dwight Strawn, and before he passed away, George Ogle. So just hearing stories about missionary life in Korea. I sat at my grandfather's knee, heard his stories, and ever since he was, even when he was alive, researched a whole bunch about Korean missionaries. Kind of my passion these days is to, oh, there was that last picture there. Oh, there's a picture of my grandparents at their Quinoa church on that document. We've gone back a couple times to Korea. So Quinoa is near the North Korean border, kind of towards the northeast. Their church, my grandfather designed it in Korean style, and the communists took it over as headquarters. So the Americans bombed it. But that picture, that group shot of them is in the Quinoa church. We were actually there in the rice field a couple of years ago where the church was, and we found lots of remnants of the church. And one of the Korean gentlemen pulled, I don't know if you can see me on screen, pulled this out. He said, "Hey, look what I found. Little tile." I stuck it in my bag to carry on the plane. And when they opened up my bag going through customs, I, whoa! But I had an article in Korean about our purpose in Korea, and they kind of let me go through with a whole bunch of stuff that perhaps I shouldn't have gone through with. But we were there at that site. And we were also able to go into the old Methodist compound. I don't know if it's still there, but when I talked to Dwight Strawn maybe 10 years ago, he was pretty sure it was gone. But when we were there 3 years ago, we were there on the missionary compound. We were actually able to get in the Methodist compound in Sajik Dong, which is that final picture that you see there. I was surprised how small the houses were, you know. They look like mansions when you look at them compared to Korean houses, but when you're actually there in the houses, it's surprisingly small. But that picture also kind of relates to kind of my passion to preserve the legacy of missionaries to Korea. So probably for the past 6-7 years, I've been trying to put together a list of all missionaries to Korea prior to 1945. So, you know, when Virginia Somerville was alive, I was in contact with her. So looking at the Moffat, Hackett, Somerville list of missionaries, and the Clark's little book on missionaries to Korea, the Korean one that came out, looking through that. But anyway, just going through all that, and I've put together like a list of about 2,100 some missionaries, which includes all the Catholics as well. Some of you have asked for that list, but I'm kind of waiting till I get the final group in, and it's some French sisters that were there. Those are the only ones I'm remaining on. Otherwise, I've profiled these missionaries to the nth, where they were born, when they were born, when they died, where they died, whom they married, who their kids were, what their education was. It's crazy why they left Korea. I've put my email address there. Oh, is that, yeah, there's the Moffat list.
Byron, this is
Yeah.
quite a legacy that, number one, you've shared with us, that you've lived and that your family has contributed to, and that you're actually building upon and putting together here. I'm glad you said you were going to put your email in the chat, because I'm going to say, please put your email in the chat so that people know how to be in touch with you. This is really, really exciting.
Yeah, so that's the Moffat list you're looking at. I've cleaned up a lot of information. This list was very, very helpful. I've added lots of missionaries, especially like Seoul Foreign School personnel. One thing that could help me is if people had any like Korea clippers that they wanted to send my way. I would appreciate those. I'm actually trying to get some access to the final few volumes of the Korea mission field to kind of verify some information, but that's kind of hard to get. But anyway, I love you guys. I know lots of your names. I see your names all the time. When I see someone like, yeah, you guys are eternally young in my head. I picture you as young people.
That's
I
always
see,
a good thing.
yeah, I see your young faces. I see all those pictures. You have my respect. I think, especially now with kind of conversations around missionary effort and colonialism and blah 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 blah. I think just kind of returning kind of a story of honor to the missionaries is just something that is very important to me. I also have a freebie giveaway item, which one of my passions too is I'm always on eBay looking for pictures and bidding on pictures that need to be returned to the family. So I bought a family photograph of the Vocal family and bought it on eBay, won the bid, sent it to them. The Hunt family, Bruce Hunt's family, won some items on eBay. I don't know whom I'm bidding against. One of them was an obviously official album of Methodist missionaries to Korea, all their work from the early 1900s. And it actually sold for maybe over $8,000 to someone in Germany who's probably just going to take those pictures that he likes and resell them at a higher price. So I'm trying to bid on these things. Well, one thing I did win, it was just before I got there, and I'd like to return it to its owner or to someone who could appreciate, is a Seoul Foreign School 1967 yearbook in really good condition.
That looks like it's in pristine condition.
Yeah, and I think it belonged to John Mitchell. If anyone knows, just from the inscriptions in there, John Mitchell. So I bought this on eBay. I'd like to return it to him or the family or someone else. We got there in 1960. So where my parents are in the 1968 and 1969 volume. So this has less meaning to us than it would someone else who's there during that time. So if I can get information somehow after I leave this chat about how to return it to its owners or offer it as a giveaway or something to somebody else, I'd be glad to do that. But yeah, feel free to contact me. And I appreciate you guys. I hope to get back to North Korea sometime. I always tell people when I walk around that, hey, you just served a North Korean, because my grandma was from North Korea. Yeah, I just love the Korean people, love you, the missionaries, and love missionary kids. And you guys have a wonderful legacy. And yeah, thanks for letting me intrude for a while.
You're welcome, Byron. You're very welcome. Thank you so much.
I need to deliver a slip and slide to my kids' birthday party, so that's where I have to go.
What you must do quickly.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This was really, really interesting. So now we have Sarah Cumming Mitchell. This is a really interesting photograph. I do not know how to talk about it. Is Sarah on the call? Perhaps not. Kelly, maybe you can tell us a little bit about it in a minute, or and perhaps move us on to Barbara Smith-Jung. No?
Hello.
Oh, there's Sarah.
Hello. This is Sarah. I couldn't get to the unmute. that was fascinating to hear from Byron, because his name and number has been on my answer machine for some time, and I owe him a call. I guess I better follow up. And anyway, I was in at KCA teaching math and several other things from 64 to 67. And I know John Mitchell, and I'm sure his family would be happy to get that book back, because he started at KCA. And I wanted to go to Korea because my grandparents, the Prestons, had gone in 1903. And then my father went in 1917 and met the daughter of the Prestons, and those were my parents. So anyway, I taught math at KCA and chemistry and French. And anyway, I enjoyed it greatly. That picture was taken probably when we were hiking to Chickenfoot Mountain. And it just shows a fun thing that that was a snake that the kids gave me. I'm sorry I didn't have any pictures of my pet owl that I bought at the market to keep it from being turned into medicine. And then Steve at the zoo in Seoul. And I came home in 67, and I continued teaching math, and I got married and had 3 kids, and ended up teaching math at the Missouri School for the Blind. But now we retired in Charleston, South Carolina, and we live in the house that my husband's grandfather built. So Charleston is a great tourist place to come, and so let us know that you're coming, and we hope to see you.
Thank you, Sarah. It sounds like you have some really interesting stories. I'm very curious about the owl. So maybe next time you'll have to share the whole story and some pictures. Okay, are these pictures from Barbara Smith-Jung?
No, these are not mine.
No, these are not Barbara's.
I see Margaret Pritchard and Paul Crane.
Do we know, does anybody on the call looking at these pictures say, hey, those are mine?
I know them, but they're not mine.
Well, considering the fact that we had as many pictures come through from as many people as we had, it is amazing. This is the first time that something has popped up that was not necessarily the person's that they were labeled for.
Yeah, this is me. Hi. It's great to see everybody. I came to Korea in 1981 for as a 2-year missionary associate. I'm still here. So I'm not sure what happened along the way, except this young man on the left. Anyway, I was at Mogwon College for a couple of years, then Holston Girls High School, then went back to the States, and my husband did a PhD, and I went to seminary, came back again in 2001, and I was at Mogwon University again. Now I'm at KCA TCIS, which is going strong. It's a totally different school than it used to be. And I know a lot of KCA graduates kind of mourn the loss of KCA, but it's not lost, it's just evolved. It's a new name, it's a new location, it's new people, but that loving, supportive Christian community is still there. That photo was my daughter's wedding. I just wanted to share those of you that I knew personally, mostly the Daejeon area Methodists. My daughter in the red dress, that's Hanji. Baeksan is the tall one, and he's doing a PhD in sociology, and Gil on the end just graduated from Carnegie Mellon in architecture. And Hanji and her husband, Evan, are both theater designers in New York. And my husband, Suchan, is teaching political science at Mogwon University. And Korea is an amazing, wonderful country. And I'm listening to all these stories and thinking there's so many amazing individuals. And yet it's really this whole effort of so many people doing so many little tiny bits and pieces all together. A few amazing, great things, but you know, all I did really was teach English and, you know, work in admissions and support students and little stuff. But altogether, it's really had an amazing impact. And Korea has gone on to have an amazing impact all around the world. So it's an honor and a joy to be part of this with all of you. So thank you. And thank you for putting this together.
Thank you, Barbara. And, you know, when we talk about it being a community and the little pieces that go together like mosaics or you know, without all the little pieces, you wouldn't have the beautiful picture. Or when we think about a tapestry with each little thread that goes in. From the back, it looks like a hot mess, but when you turn around on the front, you see the beautiful picture of what the weaver has put together. And I think that that's exactly what you're kind of describing. So thank you for the update on TCIS. I have plenty of friends who graduated from KCA, but not a one of them has been upset about the change. They all seem to be really excited about it. Thank you so much.
Great.
Andrea, you just mentioned our theme for the next reunion.
I didn't do it on purpose. What's the theme?
That's the theme. Tapestry.
Yay!
The threads of our lives interwoven.
There you go, folks. You got the sneak peek.
The sneak peek unknowingly.
The sneak peek.
And next person on our list would be Joanne Smith, and that's the pictures that I had mistakenly brought up too soon. So Joanne, I wonder if she's maybe not on the call with us. So I'm going to skip past her, and Daniel Adams is otherwise the next person. So that's who I'm going to share the photo from next, okay?
Excellent. Daniel, are you ready to take it away? Is Daniel on the call tonight? Have we gone too late?
Looks like that might be the appropriate interpretation. And so we're gonna jump to David Hackett.
Can you hear me? Anybody hear me?
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
we can hear you.
Okay, where's the picture?
Yay. We'll put the picture back up. No problem.
Yeah, there was a picture there. Okay, this is a picture of our graduation at Hanyul University on February 8th, 1998. And this sort of symbolizes our ministry because when we came to Cheonju, we were at Hanyul Women's Seminary, which was an unaccredited women's Bible school. It offered no degrees, only a certificate, trained women Chendosas. And when we retired in February of 2010, it was now Hanyul University and Presbyterian Theological Seminary. We had 4 graduate schools, the Asia Pacific Graduate School of Theological Studies. We had the Presbyterian Theological Seminary for those who were graduating for theological training, School of Social Welfare, and a School of Church Music. Now this picture, if we can get back to the picture again, where did the picture go? Okay, the person on the left with the red hood is R. Nenga, and he was in our Asia Pacific Graduate School of Theological Studies, and he was from Bali, Indonesia. And the bishop of his church, the Protestant Christian Church of Bali, was the best man in our wedding, and his daughter was the flower girl in our wedding because he and his and I were PhD students together in the States. And then, of course, the next picture is Carol, and she'll talk in a few minutes. And then the next person is Yute Ju, who was one of the faculty members who moved with us from Hanyul Women's Seminary. And as this women's seminary grew into a university, Yute Ju also grew. He got his PhD. He did a sabbatical at Westminster College in Cambridge, did another sabbatical at Hebrew University in Jerusalem, and he accompanied us on a summer school of theology at Oxford. And he's been a colleague and friend through all of our years at Hanyul. So our ministry really was watching a small, unaccredited women's Bible school develop into a university that at once had over 4,000 students, now offers bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degrees. And now Carol will say a few words about this fellow here on the right.
Graduation or commencement means beginning. During our 30 years of teaching at the Hanyul University and Presbyterian Theological Seminary in Cheonju, Cheonbu, we have hundreds of students take our classes and graduate. Today, I would like to focus on the student at the extreme right in the picture. His name is Lee Kun-hyung. He was our student scholarship assistant. During his college and seminary years, he helped us in many different ways. He was just like a family member. In this picture, he's about to receive his bachelor's degree in theology. He then went on to study for his MDiv at the Hanyul. We took him on many hour travels, including summer school of theology in Rome, and Estonia, and visit to the Netherlands and Paris. During his seminary years, we also took him to the Holy Land. By the time we retired from Hanyul University in 2010, Lee Kun-hyung had married, became an ordained minister in the Presbyterian Church of Korea, and was successfully serving as a pastor. We have many, many happy memories of Lee Kun-hyung, and are delighted and filled with thanksgiving with his success in life and the part we had in. And he is only one of the many students we have taught.
And just by way of conclusion, we are now retired. We've retired 3 times. We now live in Florida and we're still teaching at the University of North Florida. So our days of teaching are not over yet. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a beautiful story. When I was at seminary before I met my husband, I worked in the School of Church Music at Southwestern Theological Seminary in Fort Worth. And I worked with Bill Reynolds, who said, you never stop teaching. You never, ever stop ministering, and you're never done teaching. And he was one of those like you. We just never stop teaching. And that just is, I think, a beautiful testament to many of those who served in Korea and who just, that's your calling and that's what you do. Thank you. This was a lovely story, and it's very exciting to see the impact that you've had there. Okay, next we have, now we have David Hackett.
Well, hello.
Hello again.
Let's see.
David Hackett. We knew him. We knew him. He was in Daejeon.
Good. Okay, am I on here yet?
You are on, and I am gradually stumbling towards finding your
I'm
document.
I'm the nephew of Sam and Eileen Moffat, and just had such a joy getting to know Korean missionaries, and anyway, first visited in 1974, and then came back as a Presbyterian volunteer in mission. I had just 2 things to share. And by the way, I give you the greetings from Eileen Moffat, who's in retirement in Princeton. But from the Moffat collection, this is one of my favorite things that I have this in my living room. This is the map from about 1890 that the Seoul missionaries use. This is a map of Seoul, and so you can see the various gates and mountains, and down at the bottom here, it's one of the fun things here is the early missionaries have made their notes on kind of like landmarks and important places. And anyway, this is just a treasured one. I have also blown up photo one of Pyongyang, from about the same era, 1890, and showing it's a hand-drawn map of Ken Jeong. Then what I want to share is actually something that Byron referred to, and I'm putting it in. And you're free to, everybody's free to download a copy of this. This is the, I put it in chat, and I don't know if you're able to bring it up, Kelly or anybody, but he showed it a little bit, Byron did. This is the list that Virginia Somerville and Eileen Moffat, my aunt, and then my mom, Joanne Flower Hackett, and then I worked on, and it has 5,700 missionaries who served from many different places and times. As Byron said, it's just got loads of columns and then separate tabs down below that go on all kinds of other things. So you can look to see, they scoured different mission directories and annual reports over decades and compiled this. And we just want this data to be set loose. If there's any creative use that could be made of it, it's been donated to Yale and Princeton Seminary and then Korean universities as well. Byron, as he said, is doing some addition of the Catholic missionaries and then kind of pre-1945. So have a fun time looking at this Google document and download it if you'd like, and see if your family or those that you treasure are listed in it. This isn't being modified right now. Byron is doing that work, but Aunt Eileen's not able to do further work on it. So it kind of reached its zenith, and it is just what it is, a resource listing thousands and thousands of names and family members, spouses, entry, death dates, all that. Anyway, so grateful for all of you, and it's fun to be able to be with you.
Excellent.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dave. I had not seen documents like that before. And of course, I didn't know people were putting stuff like that together. It's just really exciting to see that. Thank you so much. Well, we have just a few more. I know we have hit the 9 o'clock, or excuse me, the 8 o'clock Central Time deadline, but I think we'll go ahead, and we just have a couple of more people who wanted to share some things. So we have Yenhee and Chun Lim.
Hello, this is Chun Lim. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Kelly, for some reason, we're only showing part of that.
Yeah, that's okay. I guess I trying to make it short because it's past 9 o'clock. Anyway, I was born in North Korea and then moved to South. Then 1972 moved to USA, and I became pastor and then mission co-worker to South Korea. And this is the picture. You can see, yeah, that's the Island Medical Mission. I went there 1991 to 97. It's near Mokpo, the harbor Mokpo, and then we served island people. And then after that, this ship built by PCK, not by PCUSA. My wife and I was invited by PCK and served there 6 years. Then I went to Taiwan more than 15 years doing Aboriginal mission work, and came back to South Korea 2012 as a regional liaison for East Asia. So I was in, my office was in Seoul. That's why I went to Daejeon Beach many times until 2019. And I think one thing I want to share with you, this is as a retirement gift. I made a mission co-workers dictionary from 1884 to 2020. So, but this is only for PCUSA, missionary dictionary. So if you want have this, please let me know, and then I can send you by email or something else. I think I heard many wonderful stories from you, and also thank you for your service, humble service, especially to your great grandfather or mother. Because of your service, I became Christian. So, and then I myself become a mission co-worker to South Korea. So from my bottom of my heart, and really thank you for your service to South Korea. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. It reminds me of that Ray Bolt song where he talks about people coming up to him later, like in heaven, and saying thank you because of your service. And I think it's easy for some of us, especially just missionary kids, those of us who are just missionary kids, didn't actually go back as missionaries, to only think of the things that we experienced. And sometimes we forget the reason why we were there, and that our parents did do that kind of work. And what a privilege it is to know firsthand someone. I mean, there are plenty of people who have that story, but to have firsthand someone to come in and share. Thank you so much. This is very, very sweet, and really exciting to have. Thank you. So not quite last, second to last, Liz Butterfield. Are you still on the call, Liz? I saw you on here earlier.
Yes, I'm still here. This picture was taken, I think, around 1969. We went to Korea in 65, and then my parents didn't retire until 2001. So there were many years in Korea. And I've been thinking recently about how, if they hadn't become missionaries, I would have grown up as a preacher's kid instead of a missionary's kid. And how much I would have missed so many wonderful memories and experiences I would have missed out on if they hadn't become missionaries. And this picture was taken at some small yogwan that we stayed at on vacation. And I have to apologize to my younger sister. She's not in the picture. The rest of us are in it. But some of the other guys that were staying at the yogwan were teaching us how to play Go. And it was just so many little things that happen growing up in Korea that just make it into such a wonderful life and memories that we have.
Excellent. Thank you, Liz. I graduated with Lori, so I'm familiar with your little sister. So y'all, this was a whole lot of memories. I feel very, very full. And I know that many of you do as well. And I think this is just a tiny taste of what we can have next summer when we all come together in person. And hopefully all of us can come together in person at Lake Williamson in Southern Illinois, and make sure you check to ensure that your email is exactly where it's supposed to be with the right people. And before I turn it over to Kelly for the final set of pictures, I noticed Mike Reamer has his hand up. Is that on purpose?
It is on purpose.
You have the mic, Mike.
It is on purpose. And first, thanks to both you, Andrea, and my sister. You guys did a great job. And it's so crazy to be able to sit here and listen to stories, some of them from people I do know, but also from many that I don't, that are maybe even before my time, and yet they still have so much meaning. And so just one of the recurring things that came up was Techon Beach, and how to state the importance of what that was. And so, you know, here's cabin 13. This was the Lutheran cabin. And when we lost it, I happened to be there that summer when we weren't going to be able to have that anymore. And so it's been with me ever since. Probably will stay with me till I am gone from this world. 13 might be an unlucky number, but that cabin was certainly never unlucky, nor was the beach. So good to hear from all of you. And thanks again, Andrea, and thanks, Kel. And you too, Leah.
Well, you're welcome. It has been my privilege. Again, I'm Andrea McEachern Johnson. We were Southern Baptist missionaries in Seoul from 74. My parents left in 86. So I have, along with Mike, I have heard many stories and have I think many of you were there before my time, or we've overlapped a little bit, but it has been, again, I feel very full. This has been a delightful evening. And to wrap us all up here at the end, I'd like to hand it over to Kelly, who has been instrumental. You see her in there. She's just been clicking and moving and doing all the things. And so a big thanks goes to her. And quite frankly, the idea for this, Mike, I'm going to throw you out there. The idea for doing the pictures and the sharing actually came from Mike. So if you want to thank someone for the memories that we've all put together, it actually was Mike's idea. And so that we have him to thank for that. So I think that this has far exceeded our expectations and our desires. So thank you so much for this opportunity and privilege. And Kelly, I'm going to turn it over to you to wrap us up.
Okay. Yeah, thanks to all of you for hanging with the flaws in the process of not being able to private chat with each other. We had two people who I have sets of photos from who we weren't able to hear from. So I'm going to see if I can at least quickly toggle you past some of those images just in case they inspire you quickly. So hold with me here. And then, so this was obviously is an album with a whole bunch of photos on it. And I'm just gonna step through them to give you a moment so that later on the replay, you'll be able to pause and look at them even more precisely, perhaps. So these came from Paul Kim, I believe. And yep, those were from Paul Kim. And then we also had some pictures that had come in from Joanne somebody. Joanne
Smith.
Smith, thank you. And so let me show you those real quickly, and then I will show you what I had prepared to share as my contribution. So possibly some of you recognize these faces. I don't know, but they're lovely pictures with stories behind them, I am sure. So I'm just gonna go through them slow. And then, like I said, we'll continue finishing the evening. A few more. And I suspect maybe this type of sharing will be part of our programming next summer when we're all together in person. I think that's worth considering. So you can all have a year advance warning of stepping through your photo albums and finding some more treasures to share with us. All right, a few more from this collection and then we'll hop to mine. All right, consider that officially shared. And now I shall share mine, which has a few pictures and a story. Okay, so I am Kelly Reamer-Cusick. My parents were Lutheran missionaries. My brother is Mike, obviously, who has all kinds of good ideas all the time. So here are a couple of images from Soraksan. My brother and I were super fortunate to be able to go back to Korea in 2018. We had phenomenal 2 weeks with perfect weather. And so Soraksan is obviously totally beautiful. And one of the things about that environment that I just can't even stand how much I love it is these mountain streams with the giant boulders on them. They are phenomenally wonderful, the sound of the rushing water and the look of all of it. And I'm sure you all have great memories of that feature of Korea as well. So the story, now those were pictures of Sarak-san. This picture is not Sarak-san. This picture is in my backyard, and now it's upright. And so that is boulders in water. It's a waterfall. And there's a reason I wanted to share this. So this is in Minnesota. And I will now stop sharing so I can sort of look you in the eye. So the reason I wanted to share that picture is because I built that myself as there were a bunch of boulders being unearthed in the ground near our home of about 20 years ago. And I got inspired by the idea that because we had this little hill, this slope, I could build a waterfall and that would be super cool. So I got very, very excited and spent several months, every spare minute, me and my Sears Power Step shovel, creating this hole in the ground, laying the plastic, finding every boulder I could from the surrounding blocks and bringing them back on my dolly and putting them in position. And after several months of that activity, which members of my family described as an obsession, my brother asked me, he said, "Hey, Kelly, do you know what you're doing?" And I said, "I'm not sure what this question means, actually." Like, what are you talking about? And Mike said, my image full screen, sorry, no, I can't, Leah. So Mike said, yeah, he said, "I know exactly what you're doing." He said, "I told Mom and Dad this as soon as you started talking about this whole waterfall thing." He said, "I told Mom and Dad, Kelly's trying to build her own little piece of Korea." And he was completely right, and I was completely oblivious. The next time I went back to Korea, I suddenly realized, like, oh, there are big rocks everywhere, and they make my soul sing. And so I think in the spirit of this gathering and in the spirit of how we'll, get together in person a year from now, it's a beautiful thing to have the subtle influences and all the blessings that came with Korea, however those are interpreted in our own lives. And it's a beautiful thing for other people to understand us, sometimes even better than we understand ourselves in a particular moment. And if you really want to go full on theological, of course, the person who really, really knows each of us the best, most intimately is God. And so that's a good thing to feel as encouragement and comfort also in the moments when maybe you feel a little bit alone, when maybe you feel a little bit different, when maybe you feel a little bit discouraged. So I love building my waterfall. I love the fact that it is a part of my connection to Korea. And I love the fact that my brother understood that before I did as well. So I'm gonna pray us out. Andrea prayed us in. So if you'll join me, let's end our evening with a word of thanks to our Heavenly Father. Loving God, thank you so much for letting us all be together. Thank you for all the blessings you've showered on us. Thank you for giving us interesting lives and opportunities to be exposed to a broader array of the world than many people ever get to experience. Thank you for the technology that has let us share some time together and reminisce in this way. Watch over us and bring us together, as many of us as can find it possible to find our way to the next gathering location, and help us do your work in the world. It is in your name we pray. Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. And as a reminder, we will be putting this in the Facebook group, and we will be putting the chat in the Facebook group as well. But you can really quickly, if you'd like, save the chat for yourself on your computer. If you just hit the little chat button with the 3 dots and then it says save. But I think at this stage, Kelly, I think I'm right. I'll unmute everyone. And actually it says, how can I unmute everyone? Can I unmute? It says mute all. I don't know that it says you can unmute yourselves and everybody can say goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.
It was wonderful. Well done.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Take care,
Bye.
everyone.